All right, everybody. One more week of college football after this one. We are about to discuss and have a productive conversation about the second to last week of the college football season. Week 13 is in the books. Not a lot happened, but what did happen is still significant. So let's talk about it, get a little more in the deep dive of what's going on here, and let's talk week 13 of the college football season with me, Ryan Page. What's up, Ryan?
Not much. Yeah, this was definitely well, we're there. We're at that part of the season, right? We all know who's like the top 10 teams are
Yeah,
in some order.
not a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
In fact, none at all. And a spoiler, not one upset within the top 25. At least
Yep.
none of them lost.
Yeah.
Some did go up, but no one lost. So we stay at an important stalemate. And as we headed to the final week of the college football season, it's time for us to have a productive conversation about week 13. And
Yep.
before we do that, I just want to remind you to like and subscribe to the Productive Conversations podcast on all podcasting platforms and YouTube. And don't forget to check out exclusive content regarding the show across all social media platforms. We're on Instagram at Productive Conversations Podcast, X and Twitter, ProdCouple TikTok TikTok at ProdCouple Pod, and Facebook at Productive Conversations. And as always, don't forget to check out presenting sponsor Magic Mind, the world's first productivity shop where you do more, stress less.
Hmm.
And if you have to deal and handle with so many things in life right now, especially amongst the holiday season, with friends, family, work, other side gigs, endeavors, and trying to make the most of what your year was, one thing that can help you is by getting Magic Mind and this amazing green tea shot with ingredients like nootropics, adaptions, and matcha. Helps you stay more focused throughout your day, have a less foggy brain, and make you stay and help you become the best person you can ultimately be. So go to magicmind.com/PCJune for 48% off your first subscription or 20% off your first one-time purchase. That's magicmind.com/PCJune for 48% off your first subscription or 20% off your first one-time purchase. Magic Mind, reclaim your brain. And as I said, Ryan, college football is almost over on a regular season standpoint. Heck, I feel
Hmm.
we're really getting started. You have this week, you have next week, all the rivalry games, the significant rivalry games, Army Navy after that, and then the bowl season begins. Then we are at mid-December when the college football playoff begins. And yeah, it's about to go down and hop on with us for this ride as we hit a significant part of this college football season and move forward toward the end. So, Ryan, you and me, let's do this right now. Ready?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So, the first thing, as we do every week, is to go through the top 25 in college football right now. And the things to discuss right here, that there really wasn't a lot of significant movement, mainly
No.
because mainly because of the maybe because of the fact that none of the top 25 actually lost this week, not one major upset. However, the few things to highlight includes Oregon moving up to number 5 after defeating Ole Miss. Um, and then a strong win over a strong win over USC this week after that. So
Hmm.
Oregon moved up after those wins back to back. The Miami Hurricanes moved up to 13. They're the highest ranked ACC team at the moment. And the other two teams that entered, the University of Pittsburgh, are 24. SMU is 25. Ole Miss dropped out of the number 5 position, but they're number 6 from this move. Georgia Tech did take a hit, falling 8 spots in the rankings, and the top 4 remain unchanged. The Ohio State Buckeyes, Indiana Hoosiers, Texas A&M Aggies, and Georgia Bulldogs, respectively. So, Ryan, as we could even combine these two segments together, how do you feel
Hmm.
about the top 25 and the fact that there wasn't any major upsets?
Yeah, I mean the top 25 is good. The only upset, and you can't even call it that, is Pittsburgh over Georgia Tech, and that's at the way bottom, 24 and 23.
Hmm.
So That was the only loss, and I guess Georgia Tech maybe wasn't 23 before they lost to Pittsburgh, but still, um, there was just not a lot of movement up top. I think that we're probably not going to see a lot of movement up top. I think we're probably pretty much locked in here based on, I mean, A&M, I guess they've looked phenomenal all year. We've talked about it. They're playing Texas. I believe that that's probably a game that Texas A&M will win, but I suppose if there was going to be a big upset that captured people's imagination, that's probably the one because we'll talk about Arch in a little bit. But yeah, I mean Georgia Tech, I guess last year they surprised Georgia in this Week 14 matchup. I don't think that's going to happen again.
Mhm.
But you look at all the, and then Auburn, I guess Alabama and Auburn, that's always a close game. But the reality is there's just not a ton of like the rivalries are not looking that, that serious, to be honest with you. Um, Notre Dame is not playing a particularly difficult team. Um, Indiana's playing Purdue. Michigan, I guess Ohio State and Michigan, but I would be absolutely shocked if Michigan beat Ohio State this year.
Right. Always still a big deal. I think if
Yeah.
anything, they will play hard. The White Test
Oh
and
yeah.
this would be a humongous would if they can ruin their perfect season.
Oh, I mean, if Michigan beats Ohio State, that sends everybody into chaos. Because at that point, I mean, A&M, Indiana, either one of those could get number two. I would assume it's going to be A&M leapfrogging Indiana, if we're being honest. But and yeah, I don't know where that sends everybody. Michigan is at 15 right now. A win over the best team in the country is going to put them in the top 12. It just is. Who gets replaced and how that looks, I don't really know. But I guess the last thing I would say about the top 25, only as it relates to college football, is if you look at the list here, and for those of you who don't know, the top 12 teams get into the playoff, but the top five conference champions get a automatic spot. And so if you look at the top 12, only three conferences even have a team in the top 12,
Mhm.
which means there are, assuming that all the conference champions are in the top 12 right now for the three, there's still two. And so if Miami doesn't win the ACC, which is possible, by the way, then as of right now, James Madison and North Texas would be like equally likely to get in as like Virginia, presuming Virginia was the person who won. So it's we could see two Group 5 teams this year, which will be very interesting, especially if like SMU wins the ACC or Pittsburgh. Or even Georgia Tech at this point because they're down at 23. So
Yeah, and one thing I failed to mention is after this week the conference championships,
yeah.
then the Army Navy bowls from there. So
hmm And I don't, like I said, I don't know who's going to be in the conference champion. I mean, right now it looks like Miami, and so you'd have to assume they're the favorites to win still. But I don't know. I mean, as much as I think the Notre Dame fans are really annoying right now, they're not wrong. Notre Dame looks like a much better team than Miami.
mhm.
We can't pretend that Miami didn't beat Notre Dame, and I don't think we should. But that's like, it's like head to head matters in a tie, right? And Miami is not tied with Notre Dame. Notre Dame it looks better. I know they have the same record, but Notre Dame just looks better on the field. I don't believe that they are next to each other in the rankings. I mean, they're definitely not, nor should they be. So I could see Miami losing. Like truly, I could see any of the Virginia, Georgia Tech, or Pittsburgh and SMU.
I
Any
feel
one of
we're
them could win.
finally gonna see some of these teams tested. We have seen a lot of them fall, this particular season, but it's been a couple weeks since we've seen something to get
Well, we
very,
saw the
very
frauds fall.
significant.
I think
Yeah.
we should be honest. Like
Mhm.
at the beginning of the season, through the first 5 weeks, we were looking at a ranking that was based on the fraudulent ESPN talking head class. It was based on who got who drafted the best, not drafted, but who signed the best four-star backup running back. Things like that. It was always been ridiculous, and it's good for ratings, like TV ratings, but it doesn't matter at all. Week 6 onward, you can start looking at the ratings as something that could tell you if the teams are good or not. So yeah, LSU, Clemson, FSU in Florida, right? Like these are teams that were like, oh, they might actually be good this year, and they suck. And and then, honestly, credit to Texas because they were on this list of teams that were supposed to be amazing. Same with Michigan. And while they haven't panned out exactly the way people wanted them to, they've both managed to stay somewhat relevant. Texas actually left the list for a little while, and it's back now at like 16 with a chance to upset A&M. And again, that upset would put everything into absolute pandemonium too. So, credit where it's due to that one particular team, but most of the teams that they said were going to be really good this year have kind of been ass. Um, and that's because we put too much stock into, what whoever, I don't even know what you want to, like, what Paul Feinbaum thinks or
Mhm,
whoever. I'm
mhm,
trying to think of
mhm.
other people's names. Like, it just doesn't, like, doesn't matter. They don't know anything before the games are played. So,
I know what you're saying. It's
yeah.
just the idea that you could analyze a college football team so much, but they always change.
Hmm.
Even from one year to the next, it's a completely different team. And in a world where a lot of schools have to actually make the schedules themselves, that
Hmm.
they are really competing with hundreds of schools across the United States, depending on your level, and then the conferences split those up from there. College football is way more complicated than people think, and
No, for sure.
I
One last thing I
not
want
that
to say,
easy.
though.
It's really not that easy to break down compared to the NFL, where the turnover isn't as staggering. You get to
Well,
know these
right.
players more. They're not trying to graduate. They're trying to have
Well,
a
and you
career, and that's
build,
one.
right?
Yeah,
In
right.
the NFL, you can build. So if you have an off year, you can build to get, in 2 years' time, make yourself more of a competitor. Whereas you like look at this year with Penn State. Last year they were a contender by all accounts. Watch them play. This year they fell completely out of, just they fell completely. They disintegrated.
Mhm.
LSU, another team that nothing nothing about LSU should have made them favorites like they were this year. Their team was fundamentally the same as the team that didn't do well last year. But it's like so like they're like, "Oh yeah, they added players." Like, "Yeah, but they also lost players. And they did poorly last year and nothing really changed." So it's like whereas, Ole Miss, they lost their starting quarterback and they're just as good, frankly, better than they were last year. It's very difficult to pin down. But speaking of, and the reason I brought up LSU and Ole Miss is I know it's not on our rundown, but I just wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think LSU. I mean, I get from like a prestige standpoint, LSU is a more prestigious job than Ole Miss. Like I do understand that, but now that we're in like the real world where everybody's got a gazillion dollars to pay these kids to play football for them, I don't know that LSU is a better program than Ole Miss. Like, maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but Ole Miss is clearly a well-respected football program. Um, Lane Kiffin's done a really good job with it, and I mean, listen, $90 million is a lot of dollars, so I get that part of it. But I don't know. I feel like this could be a mistake. I know he said that after they beat up on Mississippi State, he's going to make his decision. But I think that this could be a really bad idea. I mean, they're going to be a playoff team. who knows who they're going to get in the first round? They might even get like a gimme in the first round because they might get like a. I don't want to make fun of Kurt Signetti here, but Indiana has always had a bit of a weaker schedule. You know, I there's the rumor is they've got a glass straw. I hasn't been a problem yet, but you know, they could
Yeah.
make a run. Ole Miss could,
At
and
at this moment right now, Ole Miss, though it may change, would be set. They were at least in last week's college football poll.
yeah,
They were set up with Miami.
right. Okay, there you go. Like Miami is a very beatable football team, as we've seen. Two people have done it, and they weren't even really that good teams. What Louisville, which is off the list now,
Mhm.
and but anyway, so it's like, yeah, I don't know why you would go to a team that just completely fell apart this year when you finally got your team cooking. And again, it'd be one thing if you got, you know, you're an ACC team and you found your way into the playoffs and you're really doing well, or sure, but it's a lateral move in terms of conference. You're going to be competing against the same teams you're competing against this year, so that doesn't change. Your schedule is roughly the same. I don't know. It was just very strange to me. The Lane Kiffin thing is strange to me.
Yeah, you wonder what this guy wants to do. You wonder where his head at. Does he even want to try to get in the NFL too?
Well,
I don't
I
know.
think
I
it
guess
sounds
there's
like
the
it's Ole Miss or LSU. I think he's either
that
going to
seems to
take it
make
or
the
not.
most sense. He hasn't been in the NFL since 2008,
Hmm.
and his brief stint for the Oakland Raiders head coaching job went very bad. But yeah, I don't know. The dude's. I think you might as well build with the program you have now.
I agree.
It's especially in a world now. Does name recognition really matter to a young kid who just wants to get paid? It seems. Who I mean, of course, maybe there's some, but despite it just being an SEC school, which you're already at, he could
Right.
make the same impact in Ole Miss. Just gonna have to ask though that AD and the Board of Regents to give me to raise my salary, or I will leave. That's if anything, that's what great leverage is coming from.
That'd be 90 million.
Mhm.
That's tough. 90
I
million is
know.
going to be tough to match for Mississippi.
Shoot, well, I don't know. With these people nowadays, you just find one
It's a
billionaire
state school.
Mississippi who works in AI right now.
I mean, yeah, if you can
And
find them, but it's a state school, which means that's taxpayer dollars potentially, and they don't have 90 million of them. So, well,
well, maybe just that's why I said these people, these new billionaires of the day in
yeah, it
whatever
could be.
industry could just donate himself, but time will tell there. So really, Ryan, as much as I would have loved to break down the uh, I would have as much as I'd love to break down all these games as we head into it. I feel there's really only two significant. I mean,
Yeah.
just look at these. All these schools beat them. Ohio State
Mhm.
42-9 over Rutgers. Texas A&M
Yeah.
48 nothing. Georgia 35-3. Notre
Notre Dame scored more
Dame was
points than I've
there
ever seen anyone score in a football
70
game.
to 7. We'll go on that
Yeah.
specifically. Bama 56-0. I mean, like we said, a lot of teams they were manhandled this week.
Mhm.
But but having said all that, I think the two significant games to go into, number one is Arch Manning's career game for now against Arkansas.
Mhm.
Great game for him right there. But the Texas Longhorns, the Texas
Yeah.
Longhorns defeated Arkansas, the Razorbacks, by a score of 52-37. Texas is now 8-3, 5-2 in the SEC. Arkansas dropped to 2-9, 0-7 in the SEC. Texas quarterback Arch Manning had a career day through 389 yards, four passing touchdowns, ran for another touchdown, and even caught a touchdown, becoming the first Texas quarterback to record notably becoming the first Texas quarterback to record a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown all in the same game. But the Longhorns' passing game was efficient, deep shots and big chunk plays, and despite a rushing attack that was a bit underwhelming, 97 yards and 28 carries, Texas did what they had to do, what they were supposed to do,
Yeah.
destroy Arkansas. And for those who don't know what's going on, Arch Manning will probably be in the number one pick to some people, but
He's
Arch
not going anywhere.
Manning so far this season has been able to show some he's been able to show some spots of legit talent against bad teams. We'll see what he could do if he develops, or if he is bold enough to actually transfer out of Texas. I don't know. But at this time, trying to stay afloat, even playing a big deal bowl game, Texas is doing their best to end their season on a high note. And do you think there's anywhere else to go from here? How do you feel about Arch Manning's game as well? I would love to hear it, Ryan.
I mean, yeah. So in terms of how do I feel about the game, I thought it was a good game. Um, I watched the first half of this game, and I will say the first half of this game was a much closer game than the game ended up being. So from that perspective, if you just watch the first half and turn it off, you would kind of be like, well, you know, could have been better. um, and there's some truth to that, but
Mhm.
overall, that it was an efficient game for Manning. What, 4 touchdowns is, I would say, more than efficient, but 18 for 30 with the passing. Yeah, it was a good game. Arkansas is not a great team. They have not won a game in the SEC yet, so I guess you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? But it was a good game. I know I'm the one who said he should leave Texas.
Mhm.
If what's this? I can't say the Texas coach's last name. I always pronounce it wrong. Scarsian. I can't say it. Doesn't matter. If Texas's head coach goes, right, I don't know why Manning would stay, since it seems like most of this was because this guy was the head coach, and I feel like he's already got the name to get drafted. He's done well enough this year to be given a decent spot in like the Big 12, anywhere, and he can just coast until it's draft time. Maybe even make a couple of championship appearances, before he ends, because he's only a sophomore or whatever. So, but I'm also not a competitive guy, so I'm sure as a competitor he wants to stay in the SEC, and we'll have to see. I don't want to say I was underwhelmed, because frankly I was underwhelmed, and he's kind of rebounded, so that's good. Just as an overall, not this game, but overall this season. Started rough. But he's a young quarterback. I'm sure he'll be fine, provided he doesn't jump to the league too fast.
Only time will tell once and for all, but even at the end of the day, only 2 losses. That is a good thing.
Three, right?
Um, 2 excuse me. Yes, 8 losses. 2 sorry, 3 losses, only 2 against in the SEC.
Yeah.
Their big game next week against the undefeated Texas
Well,
A&M
yeah.
Aggies at home. This is it. This is a lot on this line. Just at the moment, the spread here is only Texas A&M at -2.5.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is you want to talk about like
A legacy
career
game?
defining games? This will be a career defining game for Texas, for a bunch of people in Texas, not just Manning. If they can win against A&M, even if it's a close win, I think a close loss, while it might be endear them to their fans, like the Longhorn fans will be happy with a close loss. It's still a loss at the end of the day, and that's a 4 loss team, which means you're they're already pretty comfortably out of the playoffs, but 4 losses, you are eliminated. And your bowl game's going to be decent to mid. I don't know that. I mean, I could probably look up the bowl projections, but we're too early. Nobody knows what that's going to be. Next week we can look those up once we know who's playing for the titles.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think if they win, even if it's close, that's huge. Um, I mean, probably could be big enough to get them into the playoffs. Huge, if we're being honest. So I, yeah, next week's big. I don't foresee Arch Manning winning the game for them, but you never know. Yeah, I mean, he's good. He's a good quarterback. But there's been a lot of good quarterbacks who lost to Texas A&M, and there's been a lot of good defenses. Like Texas has a great defense. There's been a lot of great defenses who got scored all over by Texas A&M because they're a pretty good football team. So I wouldn't necessarily be holding my breath if I was a Longhorns fan, but it's possible. And man, if it happens, it'll be the biggest news story in college football for again for probably for 3 weeks until the playoffs start. That's all
Hmm.
anyone's going to want to talk about.
All I can say is time will tell there,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll see. We will definitely see. And the only other game to discuss, Ryan, before we pack it up for this shorter show, you asked me earlier this week about how I feel about Notre Dame, and I
Yeah.
feel Notre Dame needed their statement game of the week. I feel that Notre Dame needed their statement game of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously playing an inferior opponent is one thing, but the
Yeah.
way they manhandled Syracuse, I do think is something to notice and
Mm-hmm.
something to talk about. And Notre Dame gets a big 70-7 victory over Syracuse. Notre
Yeah.
Dame is now 9-2. Syracuse dropped to 3-8. But it was a senior day for Notre Dame, and they put on a show. They scored three non-offensive touchdowns, two pick sixes, and a block punt to return for a touchdown. They set program records: 35 points in the first quarter, 49 points in the first half, and the big one here, Jeremiah Love exploded 171 yards on just
Mm-hmm.
8 carries, three of them touchdowns. And that tied a Notre Dame single season record set by the NFL Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis at 20. And the Syracuse's offense was severely hampered. Freshman quarterback Joseph Filardi threw three interceptions, and obviously two of them wound up being touchdowns for the other team.
Yeah.
And they were just overwhelmed from start to finish. But a dominant start and gave momentum to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense and special teams set the tone early, and they're truly balanced throughout, killing it on offense, defense, and special teams. So, Ryan, is this the significant victory that should get people a little more interested in Notre Dame? Or we're just going to have to wait until they play their playoff game to see where they likely stand?
So I like to not put a lot of stake in the eye test, right? Because that's a little this it's subjective
And
to a degree.
just to note, their next game will be against Stanford after
Yeah.
their quick viral moment, Andrew Luck on the road. Number
Yeah.
9 ranked Notre Dame will play Stanford. The spread is minus 32.5 points for Notre
Yeah.
Dame.
Yeah, I mean Notre Dame's not going to lose that game. But anyway, they just look like one of the best teams playing, don't they? I mean, I think if you're honest, if you watch them play and you watch all these other teams play, like I would say the three teams that I am most impressed with every time I see any of their games are A&M, Notre Dame, and honestly, Alabama. Like that those are the three. Those and they're all over the place. It's what 9, 10, and 3. But every time I watch those teams play, I'm like, wow, they're really good. And not like,
Hmm.
oh, they definitely should win or oh, they're gonna win. Like, no. Like, wow, they're really good. That's the takeaway. The top line number or top line thing from all those teams is they're very good. And 70-7 is obscene. Like that's an obscene number to put up on anybody, let alone a not a power, no power, yeah, power conference. I mean, obviously it's the ACC and it's Syracuse, but like that's a real football team. They were good-ish last year. actually.
Hmm.
So it's like that's a real football team that they scored 70 points on. That's just obscene. And also, it's not like they were stat padding either. Their best player, Jeremiah Love, he only had 8 carries. 8 carries. Half of them were touchdowns, but he only had 8 of them. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, we're gonna run up the pads to give Jeremiah Love that a Heisman boost in the last few weeks here. No, they gave the ball to him 8 times, and half the time he scored with it. It's like that's an obscene level of beatdown. Which, by the way, I think does say that Jeremiah Love should be considered a little bit more strongly. I know this year everyone's been like, oh, it's going to be a quarterback, and we look at all the quarterbacks, but Notre Dame had 2 early losses, and everybody basically said this team is done. Us too. You can check the tape. Those 2 early losses, we said this is probably the end for Notre Dame. They were close losses, they were good games, but they just can't get it done. And then they basically just ran the football up the middle, and now they're chasing a championship again, 2 years in a row. Uh, it, to me, they're definitely one of the most interesting teams to watch, and that was a hell of a game. Not in terms of watching; it was actually boring to watch because Notre Dame kept freaking scoring. But if you're a Notre Dame fan, you were elated this weekend because I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. I think that's just what we had to get out of this game. They just had to make one more push, secure a win for Stanford, and that will lock you in since they're independent and will not play in a conference championship. And
I think they're
they'll
locked in
have
anyway.
enough. They'll have enough leeway to get in. But I think that's where this sets up, Ryan. And as mentioned, some very big games about to happen this weekend. From Ole Miss to Mississippi State on Friday. Georgia Tech will have some cachet to that.
Hmm.
The Texas A&M Texas game we discussed.
That'll be the biggest one.
Ohio State Michigan as always is a big
Yeah.
deal.
I mean, yeah. Besides that one, the Texas one's the big one. Besides
Hmm.
the one they're calling it the game, by the way, which is no offense to Ohio State and Michigan fans, kind of a lame name for your rivalry. Well,
Ohio.
yeah, we're playing in the game, week 14.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to, I mean, they've literally played for like
No, I know.
150 years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
But
get the rivalry, but just a better name. Even call it the old rivalry game. I just something. The game. I don't know. I thought that was a horrible branding, but
who knows what could happen with Vanderbilt and Tennessee? Two ranked teams there. Tennessee's only a 2.5 point favorite.
my thing with that, and I feel so bad saying this because Diego Pavia is my boy, but I mean, who cares what happens to Vanderbilt and Tennessee? They're not. I mean, right now Vanderbilt's sitting at 12, which means they're out. They're not going to be in. BYU is probably not going to be in, and they're sitting at 11. So it's like they're not a playoff team this year. They're frankly overrated at 12. I wouldn't even have them at 12. But they're not a playoff team. And so it's fine. If they win, great. If they lose, they're definitely not a playoff team. But yeah, the Vanderbilt hype unfortunately cratered. And it's no fault of their own. They're 9-2. I mean, it's a good season, but they had something and it's gone. And I don't know what that something is. But also, this kid Pavia keeps hitting that Heisman pose. Uh, I'd be shocked if he was even in the final three for the Heisman.
I
Like,
guess we'll
no
have to see.
offense. Like, and again, he's good, but I mean, for some reason, they want this freshman in Ohio State to be the Heisman, and I don't understand why that is, but
Talk about Julian saying.
that's right. Um, but for some reason they want him to be there, so they keep talking about him. Obviously, Mendoza is up there. Nobody thinks anything about Marcel Reed for reasons that I can't fully comprehend, but he does typically get ignored. And then you've got Ty Simpson, Gunnar Stockton. Like I'm naming people just based off the top of my head. None of these people play for Vanderbilt. It's just there's so many people ahead of Diego Pavia. No offense to the kid, but I guess if he has a really good game against Tennessee, he could personally change that for himself, but it won't do anything for his team. His team is not going to make it to the playoffs or the SEC championship or any of that.
Bring the boom if you have to, man. All right. Well, Ryan, I think we can sign off on this one. Lots more to get into after next week.
Yeah.
So we'll check in and talk with you all late Sunday, early Monday with that. But don't forget, a week 12 productive conversation in the NFL will be available right now as well.
Yep, yep.
So get ready for that. So we have this and our NFL recap. And then just a tweet cap on Tuesday. It'll take you into Thanksgiving weekend. So enjoy it. Remember what you're thankful for. Actually remember what you're thankful for too. And we got a very big weekend of college football ahead. So
That's right.
enjoy it. Let's enjoy it and preview some conference championships after that. So a very exciting big show next week.
Huge
See you
show.
then.
See ya.
Great work, Ryan.